So welcome to our fourth and final session of Grief 101. And I know for many of you, this is going to be a very timely presentation on grief and the holidays. And we hope to share with you some strategies that you may be able to use to manage your grief throughout the holidays, and also talk a little bit about what makes grief so challenging and how do we cope with it through the holidays. So my name's Sheila Bourgeois. I am the Bereavement and Wellness Coordinator at Hospice Peterborough. And tonight I'm presenting with Alice.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alice Citrum, and I'm also one of the Grief Chat group facilitators, which is a grief group offered at hospice. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you all for joining us. So we're going to start with a land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Mississauga Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to our First Nations for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. We acknowledge that where we meet is the land and territory of the Anishinaabe people. We gather with gratitude to our Mississauga neighbors. We say miigwech to thank them and other Aboriginal peoples for taking care of this land from time immemorial and for sharing this land with those of us who are newcomers. Out of that gratitude, we are called to treat the land, its plants, animals, stories, and its people with honor and respect. We are all treaty people. We acknowledge that the land on which Hospice Peterborough is located is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Mississauga and in the territory covered by Treaty 20. So just as with our previous sessions, before we start, we want to touch on a few important topics. The first is confidentiality. We take confidentiality very seriously at Hospice Peterborough, and in the chat box, you will find that the name that you're using on Zoom will show up in the chat. If you're more comfortable remaining anonymous, you can rename yourself. If you click on the bottom corner of your Zoom screen, there should be some dots, and there will be a button that you can press to rename yourself, and you can choose whatever name you want to maintain your confidentiality throughout. But just due to the limitations of Zoom, we are somewhat limited in our ability to maintain your confidentiality completely. We welcome questions, we welcome feedback. It's been such a lovely part of the first three sessions to hear from people who are joining us tonight, ideas that they're using to manage their grief, their own experiences. So we encourage you to use the chat box throughout the evening, and we will address any questions at the end of the session. And then also towards the end of the session, we'll touch on where to go for additional support and provide my email. So if you have any questions that we didn't address in the 4 sessions that you'd like to ask or additional support needs, please reach out via email. So we're going to start with a poll just to get to know a little bit more about the people who are joining us tonight. So you'll see a few questions pop up on your screen. And if you can just take a moment to answer those. We're wondering what motivated you to join us for this evening's session. We're wondering if this is your first holidays without your person, if you've been through other holidays before. Are you supporting somebody or interested for other reasons? We'd also like to know if you've attended our previous sessions. And then the last question is about what is worrying you the most about the holidays, and you are able to pick more than one answer for that one. So we'll just give you a few more moments to answer those questions. I can already see that many of you are back from previous sessions, so thank you for joining us again. And welcome to those of you who are new to these sessions. So I'm going to end the polling. And so the results are that many of you, just over half of you, are facing your first holidays without your person. And 44% of you have been through previous holidays without your person. Most of you have attended previous sessions, and there are lots of things worrying many of you about going into the holidays. The number one was that you're worried about all of it. So balancing grief in the holidays, that no one will speak of your person, and just dealing with the lack of motivation to really recognize and engage in traditions and rituals around the holidays. Okay.
So as with other weeks, we've done a moment of mindfulness together to kind of get us together in the space, and to get us sort of into our bodies and to be able to sort of process all of this information during a difficult time for all of you. Tonight we're going to do something a little bit different, although it's still going to be with the theme of a mindful moment. We're going to do a candle ceremony that's going to be about a reflection around what grief is and how we're carrying our grief and our person. Candles are something that is used quite a bit at hospice around the different traditions and that hospice carries with them around grieving. And also it represents many things for many different people, but what it does, it allows for space for reflection, to pause, to bring our person into the room, and to basically take notice that we're thinking of them and that we're missing them. So we're going to do this candle ceremony. I'm going to just lead us into this candle reading, and Sheila is going to light the candles that are located behind her. And we have 4 candles with Sheila, if you can see, and each one will represent something different. So there are 4 candles that we're going to now light in your honor. 1 for memories, 1 for sadness, 1 for determination and courage, and 1 for our love. So we light the first candle for memories. So many memories, your smile, laugh, good times and bad, all the times that never could have been lived with anyone but you. We will always remember you. We light the next candle for sadness. The pain of losing you is intense, and the grief we feel is often difficult to bear. We miss you so much. We light the next candle for determination. We are changed because of you. Your life made a difference in mine. We want you to know that we will take the energy of your living to help us move forward with our own lives. We light the last candle for love. The special connection we shared can never be replaced. During this holiday season, our love for you will shine as brightly as this candle. We will pass that love on to others, and as we do, our hearts will smile because of you. We will always love you. At this point, we would invite anyone who feels comfortable to type the name of the person that they're thinking of, that they brought with them tonight to tonight's meeting, the person that you're going to be missing this holiday. And we invite you to just share their name in the chat so that we can know that they're there. And if you don't feel comfortable typing it, we know that you're thinking of them, and we honor that.
So just before we move on, we want to share this Helen Keller quote. What we have once enjoyed and deeply loved, we can never lose, for all that we love deeply becomes a part of us. So tonight we're going to be talking about grief at the holidays. And this can be such a challenging time of year for people who are grieving, because everywhere you look, you hear songs, you see signs that this is supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year. But what we know is for people who are carrying grief, it can be one of the most difficult times of the year. And Dr. Amber Cohen spoke to why this can be such a difficult time of year for those who are grieving. And it really, the holidays often connect to all of our senses, and we have such strong tradition. Sorry about that. So her quote is that we have such strong traditions and strong memories around the holidays that use all of our senses. The taste and smell of food, sounds of music, prayers, touch, and feeling. The hugs and love from people, such visceral and strong memories can trigger memories of our loved ones, and grief just comes up from that. So acknowledging that all of our senses are engaged in remembering our person, and that can be really overwhelming at points. And so we will be talking more tonight about how we can care for ourselves and our connection to our loved one at the holidays. But we're going to start with a story that we'll refer back to throughout the session. And this is one story about managing grief at the holidays. Every year, a man, his wife, and their 3 young children hung their stockings above the fireplace 12 days before Christmas. Each stocking was carefully knit by an ant, and each had a name written on it in sparkling silver writing. Every day leading up to Christmas, there would be a little treat in the stockings. Some days, a small sweet chocolate from their ancestral home in Germany. Some days, a bag of apple cider or Christmas tea, and other days, a clementine orange. Year after year, this tradition became a favorite for the family. As the children grew, they would always arrange to be home 12 days before Christmas to hang their stockings, and then would return Christmas Eve to collect their 12 days of treats. That is, until this year. This year was different because in June, she became ill, and by September, she was gone. The man couldn't bring himself to pull out the stockings she had collected and put away with such care just last December. His children called and asked how he was doing. His response each time was, "I'm fine, just tired." His children asked about coming home 12 days before Christmas, and the man told him that he had not been able to find the box of stockings, so not to bother, even though that wasn't true. He had looked at that box every day, but the weight of it was simply too much to bear. 11 days until Christmas. There would have been a chocolate. She would have put a chocolate in today. 7 days. He thought it likely would have been a scratch-and-win ticket. 2 days to Christmas. The man realized that despite the pain of his wife no longer being there, the tradition had still made him smile each day. It still brought joy and comfort, albeit the taste of the joy and comfort had changed. On December 24th, the man woke early, anticipating his children's arrival later that day. He pulled out the box of stockings and hung each over the fireplace in the same spots they had held for many years, and then he went to the grocery store to pick up 12 items for each stocking. That afternoon, the children arrived and all smiled through tears to see the stockings hung and filled as they had every Christmas. They talked about her and how much they all missed her this year. And they talked about how much she enjoyed each Christmas when they came together, and how even though it felt different and strange, they still found joy in being together this year and saying her name.
So this is a grief at the holidays pact, and what it is, first of all, it's a recognition that an acknowledgement that that holidays are extremely difficult if you're grieving. So this is an invitation to take some of the pact, take none of it, or adopt it as part of your own tradition. It's essentially an invitation to be gentle with yourself and to look after your own feelings about what it is that you need this holiday season. So the first part of the pact is you acknowledge you have a right to mourn. And it's okay to be really sad about everything that's gone, everything that you miss, and everything that has changed. That's the first part of the pact. Second is you acknowledge you have the right to feel what you feel. Grief causes such new and intense emotions. Many people feel like they're going crazy the first few months following a loss. Grief, as you know, is associated with a long list of emotional, physical, and cognitive responses. And it's okay and normal to feel what you feel even on the holidays. Scratch that, especially around the holidays. Number 3, you acknowledge you have the right to decide how you want to spend the holidays. At this point, we simply just want to affirm that it's okay to do things differently. It's okay to opt out of things, and it's okay to honor and remember your loved one's memory however you like. There's always the need for patience, compromise, and understanding with others, but ultimately you have the right to spend the holiday how you think it's best right now. Number 4, you agree to communicate about your feelings, expectations, and needs. This one's a hard one for a lot of us, even when we're not grieving. No two people grieve in the same way. Even people in the same family who are grieving the same loss. Expectations around the holiday, rituals, traditions, celebrations are fertile ground for family misunderstanding. The best thing you can do is communicate. Communicate your thoughts, your feelings, emotions, needs, and expectations. Number 5, you agree to minimize negative coping. When you're worn down and tired, you're more likely to choose coping that can harm your health and well-being. Things like eating, isolation, substance use, constant comfort eating seem like quick and easy feel better fixes, but ultimately they do nothing to help you cope with your problems and will only make you feel worse. Again, be gentle. Do what you can. Number 6, you agree to take care of yourself. When you're stressed, you may be tempted to let self-care fall by the wayside. Remember, coping is more than just processing feelings. It's about taking care of yourself and your soul. And number 7, you agree to be mindful of your outlook. You are entitled to all the anger, sadness, and bitterness you want. Just remember, even though these feelings are justified, they still come with personal and interpersonal consequences. Many people fail to recognize how over time, negativity can impact their overall worldview. People with a negative affect may be more likely to find depressing, cynical, and suspicious explanations to things and to believe that the things will never change. And no doubt, after grief, our worldview has changed. And on top of that, people have changed how they treat you. And so when we talk about this pact, this is also about when you're having this pact, you can share it with people that love you, that are going to support your pact, that are going to honor your pact, and are going to understand why you need a pact in the first place.
And it can be a really helpful thing to share with family members who are also grieving at the holidays so that you can each hold each other accountable to taking care of yourself and putting yourself first through this difficult time.
And this is just an image to say that there are no, this pie chart is all of the feelings for grief. There's no pie for anger or for sadness. They don't just kind of separate from one another. They kind of all happen at the same time. And so when we talk about, how we're going to get through the holidays, it's also knowing that the feelings around certain things change in a moment's notice. You could be feeling deep sadness about something around the holidays and then instantly feel gratitude after that, or love. And so all of the things that you're feeling are part of your grief all the time.
Mm-hmm. And so how do we cope with having all of these feelings all of the time through the holidays? So this is a wonderful image that touches on some ways to survive the holiday season when you're grieving. For some, traveling and going somewhere new may be an option. I know this year, less so than most years, that would be an option to just do something totally different. And sometimes that can be totally different yet at home. Try to find small moments of comfort, whether it's in a cup of hot cocoa, like the pitcher, or some quiet time beside a tree, or in the light of a menorah. Try to find small moments of comfort through the holidays. Spending time outdoors can be a way to help you navigate and survive the holidays with your grief. Some people find giving to others a way to process their grief at the holidays and do things differently because they're focused on caring for others when it's just really hard to be on your own. Give grief a place at the table. Set a place at the table for your loved one. Some people find the hubbub of being out leading up to the holidays and the constant holiday music too much. So it's okay to put on headphones and tune out all of that noise. Because I know it's everywhere. It's at the grocery store. It's everywhere you turn. And so if you find that really aggravating, a strategy that might help is wearing headphones when you're out. Have an exit plan for holiday parties. So if you are with family or friends over the holidays, having a plan B, will touch a little bit on that in the next slide about planning ahead. Aim for peace of being rather than holiday joy. It's going to feel a lot different this year. And so if you aim for a different kind of feeling, it'll be easier to sort of find that than find the same thing that you've experienced in previous years. Including them in your rituals, having a candle lit for your person or having photos out during family events can be a really important piece of navigating grief at the holidays. Connect with other grieving people. So our grief chat program continues to run on Fridays, and then after the holidays, we'll be starting back up on Tuesday evenings. So connect with other grieving people. Finding a comfortable place to be sad, a favorite chair, a quiet spot, and spending some time with friends. If you're able, that may look differently this year. That might be happening on Zoom or over the phone or outdoors, but trying to find some time to connect with the people who care for you. So one thing that can be really helpful with the holidays is to plan ahead, to plan what that day might look like for you, to think about traditions that you've had in the past and to say, yeah, no, that one's really important to me and I want to do that, but maybe we need to do it different this year, or we'll continue to do it the same, or it's just too hard this year and we'll set it aside. It doesn't mean that you're never going to engage in that tradition or ritual again. It just means that this year it's too hard, and it's okay to not do all of the things that you usually would plan over the holidays. It's also really good to always have a plan B when you're going into an event or a gathering, to have a backup plan. So you usually, for example, would attend church with your family on Christmas Eve. It's always good to say, okay, but if I'm not able to log into that Zoom church session, I'm going to watch my favorite Christmas movie. So having a backup plan, or I'm going to watch Friends or something else that just sort of changes your mindset and may give you a break from the weight of navigating your grief at the holidays. But it can be really helpful to plan ahead. And in this quote, it says, "The first year without your loved one will be a year of many firsts. Mark birthdays, holidays, anniversaries on a calendar and plan for them. By planning ahead, you are making sure there is self-care during these hard times." And that's such an important piece, caring for yourself throughout the holidays.
Number 2 is give yourself permission to do it differently. And I just want to, zero in on the word permission, because permission is not just, okay, I'm going to do this differently. It's this radical feeling and thought of, not only am I going to give myself permission to do it differently, I'm going to allow myself to not feel guilty about it or forgive myself for feeling guilty. It's doing something with this radical acceptance that I want to do it differently. I want to do something that I haven't done before, or I'm not able to do the things that I used to do. So permission, when we talk about giving yourself permission, it's not just doing it. It's also the inner feelings that you are having while you're also doing that thing differently. And back to what Sheila was talking about, that self-care piece, which can feel really overwhelming and like a big word when we're talking about grief and holidays, that is a part of self-care. Like giving yourself permission to do things differently, that in itself is exactly what we're talking about when we talk about self-care. You don't have to expect to do everything you did in the past. You can pick and choose what you're up for. And it will give you a chance to think about which traditions hold real meaning to you and which have simply observed because of habit or other people's expectations. And that's a big one around the holidays and grief, is expectations. What do we do with them? Some people find canceling the holiday altogether, yeah, you can cancel a holiday. If you're going through the motions and feel nothing, you can cancel them. Some people take a year off. The holidays will come around again and will always be there. For other people, staying involved with the holiday is a symbol of life continuing. And so we have that big range of permission and being able to pick and choose what feels right in that moment. Grief has a unique way of giving us permission to evaluate what parts of the holidays we enjoy and what parts we don't. And grief will change that as well. Remember, there's no right or wrong way to handle the holidays in grief. You get to decide what is right for you. Do it. You have every right to change your mind, even a few times, even throughout the day. Friends and family members may not have a clue how to help you through this time, and you may not either. And that's okay.
So it also can be really helpful to just acknowledge that it's going to be different and we can't change that. If we spend our holiday season fighting to try and make it what it was, it's never going to be. It's changed because your loved one isn't here. And so sometimes when we say, okay, it's going to be different, but I'm going to get through, can be the best gift that you can give yourself through the holidays. And I think this picture highlights how it's going to be different for a lot of people, how they're celebrating and gathering, but just acknowledging that and doing our best to accept that can be very powerful.
Communicate. It's really hard, especially when we're already running on empty, to be able to communicate our needs and communicate how we will want to do things differently. But it can also be this really important tool in order to actually help with coping through the holidays. I'm just going to take a sip of tea, sorry. Sheila, do you?
Yep, I got it. So just making sure that you let families and friends know what you're capable of engaging in and what you've chosen to step aside from. It doesn't mean that other people can't engage in that ritual or that tradition that you have with your family, but just letting people know what feels right to you and honoring your gut as much as possible.
Thanks, Sheila.
No problem. And then the second to last point is we ask you to be kind and generous with yourself. Allow yourself to change your mind. It's okay if you do decide to do something differently, or you think, no, this tradition's really important to me, I want to continue with it, and then you get to that moment and you're like, oh, no, I can't do this today. It's okay to call it. Just trying to honor what feels right to you as you go through the holidays. Prioritize and really dedicate time to activities that allow you to fill your cup, even if it's just a little bit. For some, it might be a quiet cup of coffee in the morning, maybe walking your dog, being in nature, creating time to care for yourself as you go through this really difficult holiday season. And if you find guilt creeping in when you're thinking things like, I should be enjoying this more, or I shouldn't be enjoying this, try to let that go and acknowledge that that's not helpful. Just honoring where you're at and saying, I'm not really enjoying this is okay, or saying, I'm actually finding some joy in this that I didn't expect. And both of those are totally fine.
6, plan to remember your person. And this quote says, "Your absence is loud this holiday season." Being able to acknowledge that someone is missing is really important. It can give us permission to connect to that person, the holiday traditions that we're celebrating, and make them part of it. And make sure that other people know that we're thinking of them. And the planning part can be really important too, because it can give you time to be intentional about how you want them to be part of that tradition or that holiday celebration, as opposed to having it go by and not happen the way you maybe wished it did or the way you hoped it did. It's also a great time to have that conversation, because maybe other people in your family are also thinking about this, and you bringing that up allows them to then also contribute their ideas of how they want their person remembered as well.
So how do we manage the traditions we've had? And how do we decide which pieces we want to continue with? And sorry, I should say, I really encourage you, if as we're going through the slides, if you've come up with ideas as to how you're coping with the holidays, how you're managing traditions, please share those in the chat box. I think you're such a rich resource for everyone else who's participating tonight. And so I would also encourage you, if you're not adding things, to keep that chat box open and look what other people are adding. So I think when it comes down to managing traditions, it's going to be letting your values guide you. Think back to previous holidays and think about which parts held the most meaning for you and really were important for you. For some, it might be those moments where you are gathering with family, and as difficult as it is to gather when there's someone missing, there can still be great comfort found in those moments when it really speaks to what you value about the holidays. For some, it might be the spiritual element of the holidays, so taking time to engage in the rituals, the spiritual rituals that you have around the holidays. For some, it might be the opportunity to give to your community or to your family. And so really think about what those key pieces of the holidays have been for you, and think of how you might be able to engage in activities that really focus on that. And maybe this year, let yourself let go of the pieces that aren't the really important bits for you.
So considering also new traditions around holidays, around your grief, and we'll go through a few ideas that are there. I mean, you guys will come up with, you guys already probably have maybe some traditions that you have started or have heard about, or maybe you'll get some ideas from tonight. This is not at all an exhaustive list, and you know, like Sheila said, we encourage you to include any ideas that you would like to share with the group. This first one, the candle ceremony, is a beautiful way to hold space for the person that's not with us around the holidays. So on a special day, it could be Christmas, it could be New Year's, it could be on any other day of the year that's special to you or your person. Gather everyone for a candle ceremony. Give everyone an unlit candle. The first person lights the first candle and shares a memory. They can share a memory of their deceased loved one, a memory from a past holiday, a time during the year when they felt their loved one's presence. You decide. It's your tradition. After the first person shares their memory, they light the candle of the next person, and then that person also shares a memory, and so on and so forth. Once the last candle is lit, do something to close the ceremony. You could sing a song, you could play a song, their favorite song perhaps, say a prayer, you can shout out their favorite saying, or simply tell them that you love them.
The lovely thing about that ceremony, Alice, too, is recognizing that this year is going to be different and that gathering outside might be an important piece for people. This is a lovely ceremony that you'd be able to do outside and at a distance with people, yet connecting and honoring your person.
Yeah, good point.
So another idea is to choose a secret sign. And this might be something that you, if there's children in your family, that you engage them in, or maybe there's just two of you who want to have the secret sign. And then when things remind you of your person, whether those moments are happy or sad, you would use that sign. So in this, they've done a heart. For some people, they might look at the American Sign Language and pick the letter of their special person's name, the first letter of their name. For others, it might just be like bumping your fist to your chin. And it's a way to say, I'm having a moment where I'm thinking about them a lot, because that can be really hard to say sometimes, especially if you're with a group of people. And so having a secret sign can be a helpful way to acknowledge the grief and the connection to that person. And the other thing is these signs can be used throughout the year. So it doesn't have to be limited to the holidays.
A holiday memory or gratitude box. So the idea behind this memory or gratitude box is you leave the box somewhere and slips of paper and pens out and ask those that you're spending the holiday with to write down their favorite holiday memory, there any other memory with the person of the loved one, or gratitudes of the person that's died, and ask to put their slips of paper in the box and then read them over dessert or the end of the night to everyone to share. And one of the things that you can also think about doing around this, especially around COVID, is you can actually have people who can't be with you this holiday season email in their messages of gratitude or memories of the person, and so that they can still be included. The email can also be about giving people some time to reflect on what memories they want to send in, or gratitudes that they want to send in. So it can give some people some time to reflect on what they want to send in as well. And it's something that can be done every year. It could be done, outside of Christmas and the holiday season. This is something that you can do year round, and you can go back to as many times as you want to.
And so the last idea we have for you is to create a memory tablecloth. So you would purchase a plain tablecloth and Sharpies or fabric markers, and you would invite everybody who is at your holiday gathering to write a favorite holiday memory or to share a favorite memory they have with your loved one, or the best piece of advice that person ever gave them. And people can write it right on the tablecloth, and you can use that again the following year, or you can have that just as a special connection and memory of that person and the gifts that they shared with you in their life.
I just want to also acknowledge people's comments in the chat as Sheila and I went through that list of new traditions. Some of you have written down some really meaningful traditions that some of you have done only for maybe you're doing it for the first time, and some people have been doing it for years and years, and they're quite they're very significant and they're different, right? And it's meaningful to your family. So thank you for sharing those with us and with the group.
So we just want to touch on supporting those who are grieving during the holidays, because we know some of you have joined to figure out how do you support your friend, your neighbor, your family member as they're grieving through the holidays.
So the first one, although sounds simple, is a difficult one for most people, making contact. And making contact, on other times of the year can be difficult. Death makes people uncomfortable. And there's this idea that if I call this person, I'm just going to upset them. I'm just going to remind them of the person that's no longer here. And in fact, the opposite is true, that the people who, and if you've been to our other sessions, you've learned that people want to talk about their person. That is always on their mind. And that having that invitation to check in and talk about what's going on around how they're feeling, how they're coping with their grief, and what they need is a really, is a gift. It really is a gift to that person. And to some people, you might be the only one who is able to have that contact with them. If you're going to make contact with someone, ask what they need and offer concrete assistance. It could be, do you need a tree this year? I'll go get you a tree. Do you need me to grab groceries for you? Sheila talked about how difficult it can be to be in some public spaces that have Christmas music playing, that have decorations lit up, people that are laughing or cheerful. They're reminders that things are different, and I don't feel that way this year. And so being able to offer some concrete assistance to someone that you care about who's grieving can be a gift. And so that is the first way that you can offer support.
And Alice touched on it, but the best gift you can give somebody is to talk about their person. And so if you knew their person, offer to talk with your friend about them. Sharing stories or memories is the best gift that you can give, because it allows people to know that their loved one's memory is staying alive in the hearts and minds of other people.
Invite them out for a walk. Oftentimes that could be a small break or reprieve and some form of self-care for the person who's grieving. Especially if they're spending time with other family members who are also grieving that loss, they might feel a sense of needing to protect the other members in their family around having those feelings or being able to talk about their feelings. And so that invitation of being able to go for a walk, for instance, and talk about how they're doing, especially around this holiday season, can be that small thing that they do this holiday that can be really, that can help them get through a really difficult time. And it's a small gesture.
So allow children to be children. And we can sometimes feel a little edgy or raw. And so kids being a bit wild and crazy at the holidays might rub us the wrong way, and we might be irritable with them. But it's important as supporting, when you're supporting a family, to make sure that you let children know that they have permission to experience joy and enjoy the holidays. Sometimes kids and teens can feel like they're not supposed to have fun, or they're not supposed to be happy over the holidays. And so sometimes they need to be told that that's actually okay.
Supporting the family's choices. So if you support here because you're supporting a family who's experienced a loss and is going through the holiday season, not having expectations about that family keeping up with past traditions. They may need to let some cultural holidays pass. without fanfare this year. They may want to change the holidays activities as part of building a new life. They may take some of the holiday traditions and leave some out. And so being able to just have that acceptance that whatever, taking their lead, essentially, I think we had that on one of the slides, is taking that person's lead or that family's lead on what they are going to be doing this holiday season and supporting them with that decision.
So just as we wrap up, we want to share a couple messages with those of you who are grieving. And this is a wonderful story and wish from the people at What's Your Grief. Hold on. When you find yourself crying into the cookie dough or casserole or whatever sentimental recipe you're making. Hold on when you hear that song that reminds you of your loved one. Hold on when you find yourself thinking, I wish they were here for this moment so badly, it hurts. Hold on when you feel like you're the only sad person in the whole wide world. You're not. Hold on during those quiet in-between moments when you feel your loved one's absence most acutely. Hold on because you're going to make it. Hold on because you're not the only one. Hold on because there's hope that next year will be better. Hold on because the holidays are almost over. We want to wish you a peaceful holiday filled with warm memories and love. As you make room for friends, family, and faith, be sure to make room for your loved one's memory as well. You may shed tears, but remember that your grief is an expression of love, and such an expression is never wrong.
So Sheila and I's holiday wishes for you, now and always. May you remember that you are capable of getting to the other side of this. May you have a safe place to let go and have comfort close by, even if that means wearing the same sweatpants many days in a row. May you have the courage to say no when you need to. May you show yourself kindness, even when you think you should be stronger. May you find new things that bring you joy. Feel in your bones the love that people have for you, and trust that you will not feel lost forever.
So just a reminder of places you can go to receive extra support through the holidays and into the new year. Your local hospice can be a place of support. And if you struggle to find where to access grief supports in your community, please email us and we can help to let you know where those are or connect you with our grief chat programs, which are running virtually until COVID restrictions are lifted. In Peterborough, you can contact your primary care physician. There are mental health clinicians attached to each family health team that may be able to be made available to you. If you're employed, you may have an employee assistance program that allows you access to mental health supports. And then leaning on those trusted family, friends, neighbors, or coworkers who may be there to support you, but not know quite how to do that. So letting them know. Some amazing online resources, whatsyourgrief.com. The Grief Pact is available on their website, as well as many different resources. There's 64 different ways to cope with your grief at the holidays on their website. So we encourage you to check them out, and also mygrief.ca, and if you're supporting children, kidsgrief.ca.
I just want to comment on somebody's question in the chat, asking about where I can find good online resources to hosting a virtual celebration of life. whatsyourgrief.com does have blog posts on how to plan a virtual memorial or celebration of life. Is just one place that you can look for those kinds of resources.
And funeral homes can also be a great resource for those as well. So if there's a funeral home that you're supported by, talking to them about those services as well can be helpful. So thank you all for joining us tonight and setting aside this time to think about the holidays and grief for you. This is my email. If you have feedback, we do have a final poll that we're going to launch.
Yes, we are going to launch
momentarily, just to see how you felt the content of tonight's session was, if you'd be more likely to participate in an online grief group after attending these sessions. Would you recommend these sessions to someone else? And lastly, we were really impressed. Well, sorry, that isn't the last one. The last one is about length of the session, but we had such a great response to these Grief 101 sessions. And so we're hoping to do additional education sessions in the new year and would love feedback. If there's specific topics that you'd like us to cover in those sessions, please, you can include that in the chat box. You can send me an email with ideas of what would be helpful for you to hear or learn about in the new year.
And thank you very much for all your comments tonight. And thank you for bringing with you the person in your thoughts and in your hearts tonight. It's been a pleasure for Sheila and I to do this for the last 4 weeks, and it's been very meaningful to be able to see and hear some of the things that you have been incorporating into your own lives around coping with grief, whether that be early grief, COVID grief, or holiday grief. So thank you very much.
Natalie, were there any questions that came up through the session tonight? So we'll just give a few more seconds for the poll.
No, there weren't any questions. There were some good suggestions, but I think Alice managed to reflect them.
Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. And if you were with us for other sessions, for participating in those. And know that on Tuesday evenings, the first and third Tuesday of the month, starting in the new year, Alice will be back to facilitate the grief chat programs that'll be running. So if you'd like to participate, you can contact our intake coordinator at Hospice Peterborough.